In this video, we're going to go over a summary example of creating tables and altering tables and removing tables using the player example. So what I want you to do is try this on your own, pause this video, and then come back to compare your answers. So here we are at the server. I'm going to go ahead and highlight everything and delete it, and then paste the questions from the slide. For this first question, I'll just go ahead and use a multi-line comment to comment the whole thing out. For the second question, I'll add a £sign for a single line comment, same for the third question. Alright, so this first question asks us to create a player table that has the column player ID, player name, player address, and then a foreign key that connects back to the team table. So what I'm going to do is start by moving this team table to the top because I'm going to want to connect to it. We'll go ahead and highlight this. If I hold down Shift with Tab, it will automatically indent each of those columns. So now I'm ready to go ahead and create the player table. So we'll say create table player. We'll open the parentheses, close the parentheses, hit semicolon, and then we'll use player ID as our primary key, and it is an integer with no more than 5 characters. So integer 5, not null, and primary key, comma. The next column is going to be the player name, which is going to be a variable character string of 30 characters. It cannot be null, so we'll add not null. The next column is address, which is also going to be variable character with 100 characters, and it doesn't say anything about it being not null, so we'll go ahead and leave it and make it null. The next part asks us to connect the player table to the team table, so that's using a foreign key constraint. So I'll go ahead and add a comma after this last column, type in constraint, and then this is going to be a player foreign key, and the type of constraint is foreign key, and it's going to use the team ID in the player table to reference the team ID in the team table. Now we don't have any team ID in the player table, so I'm going to go ahead and make one. So I'll do team ID. I'll look up at the team and see that it is integer 5, so I'll go ahead and use the same domain constraint, integer 5. We'll say that this column cannot be null and add a comma. Alright, so now we're ready to come back here and say that this team ID references the team table, specifically the team ID in the team table. And then we can add our on delete cascade if we want to do cascading, and on update cascade as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and run this. So we'll go ahead and create the team table. It says that it's successfully executed. And then we'll go ahead and create the player table. It says that it's successfully executed. If I come over to my tables, I see that they're both there. I can also see with my ERD that the player table is connected to the team. That team ID is the foreign key that references the primary key of team ID over here. Alright, the next question asks us to alter the player table to include a player number column. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll say alter table player. So we're going to add a new column called player number, and this is going to be an integer with no more than 3 digits. Let's go ahead and say that this column is not null. Go ahead and run this. It says that it was successfully altered. We come over to the ERD and we see that player number has now been included. The next question asks us to drop both tables from the database, so I'll go ahead and start drop table, and then we'll say drop the player table, then the team table. Remember that we must drop the player table first because that has the foreign key that references the team table. I'll go ahead and run this query. It says that one or more tables were successfully dropped. If we come to here, we'll see that we no longer have any tables in this tab and the ERD tab has disappeared.